You're going to hear two scary true stories involving toys. The first story will be read by me, and the second will be read by another spooky YouTuber called Shudder Island. When you're done watching this video, go check out his channel.
Story 1.
We lived for 20 plus years in a house in suburban Melbourne. It was built in the mid-1950s and several families had lived there before us. There was always a peculiar vibe about the place. Initially we put it down to the previous occupants. We'd met them once when we'd looked at the place while searching for a home to buy. After that, we'd always privately called them the Addams family. When they'd moved out and before we moved in, we had to give the place a major clean. The previous owners had left the house in a filthy state. One bedroom in particular had streaks of blood across the walls. As soon as we moved in, odd things would happen. Small objects such as jewellery and keys would go missing, only to reappear sometime later in strange places. For example, between the sheets at the foot of the bed, or between dinner plates in a cupboard. Occasionally, my wife and kids would glimpse a little blonde-haired girl in different rooms, and my wife would regularly feel someone stroke her hair as she lay in bed at night when there was no one actually there. These and other things that happened never made us uneasy. We thought of the presence as just part of the house. Although this story isn't really about the occurrences in the house, I think that somehow the vibe of the place played a part in it. Our youngest son had been given a voice-changing Megaphone toy as a present at my office Christmas party. It had 3 or 4 voice settings. One of the voices that could be chosen to alter the speakers was that of a child. Initially the toy worked as it said on the box, but one day, as I played with the kids, an odd thing happened. As I spoke into the megaphone, my words were altered. Not just my voice, but the words themselves. The sentence still made sense, but it plainly wasn't what I'd said. In addition, the child voice had taken on a weird, impish quality, taunting and sneering at the same time. The first time it happened, I thought that maybe it was because I'd misheard the voice from the megaphone, or maybe the batteries were going flat and altering the sound being reproduced in some way. I replaced the batteries and tried again. The voice was stranger when I tried it again, but only when the child voice was selected. Each time something was said, more words would be changed, the child voice becoming creepier and more demonic. I clearly recall my statement, "I'm going to tickle you," being reproduced in the child voice as, "I'm going to suffocate you." I took the batteries out of the thing and put it well out of reach of the kids. Sometime later, my brother-in-law and I were swapping spooky stories, and I thought of the weird toy. He didn't believe what I told him, so I got down the megaphone from its hiding place and had him try it out for himself. The first few things he said were reproduced in the child voice, just as he'd spoken them. Then the impish demon voice was back twisting his words as it had done to mine. But not only did the words change, a horrible, devilish giggle that made our skin crawl came from the megaphone. My brother-in-law looked at me with horror and dropped the megaphone as if it had sprung to life and tried to bite him. After that, I took the batteries out of the thing again and put it up out of reach on top of a high wardrobe. I didn't think about it for years, and when we moved out, the megaphone wasn't one of the lost things that always turn up when you move house. I don't know what happened to it. My wife and kids don't know where it went either. I'd love to have it here now, in our new home. I'd love to try it again and see if the creepy little voice was just another aspect of the presence in the old house. It still gives me creeps when I think about it. In particular, that horrible little giggle that came from the thing the last time anyone touched it. Of the many peculiar things that we witnessed in that house, and in another we lived in for a short time, the megaphone was the only one that seemed sinister. The rest of the experiences appeared to be benign, even playful at times. The child voice from the megaphone was neither benign nor playful.
Solitude.
Weird things started happening to me about a year ago. I moved into a new unit in Brisbane and got my porcelain dolls back from my mother's place. I have had the dolls since I was 5 years old. Everyone used to tell me they were evil, but I did not believe them. Anyway, I put the 7 dolls away in a box and left them in the spare room. I then began having nightmares, starting with 1 or 2 a week. After a little while, they started to occur every single night. I've never experienced nightmares like this before. These were full-on extreme night terrors. I did not understand what was going on and was exhausted all the time from lack of sleep. I then started to hear some kind of scratching noise coming from inside the closet or from just outside my room late at night. Never during the day. At the time, I thought it might be a mouse. These things happened for a couple of months. One time I was sitting in the lounge room watching television when all of a sudden I saw 2 small red eyes on the side of my cat's body when he was standing on my lap. They were just staring at me. I looked behind me to see where it was coming from and saw nothing but a blank wall. I looked back and the eyes were still looking at me. Then they slowly faded away. I always felt a strange, uncomfortable presence in the house, but was not sure if it was because I had just moved in on my own and was scaring myself, or if it was something else. I think I used to make excuses for everything, so I did not think I was going crazy. On another occasion, I was lying in bed and had the outside hall light on when I saw a murky dark shadow come across the ceiling and into my room. It then disappeared. The last thing that happened before I spoke to someone about the weird events was when I saw a demonic looking face in the reflection of the base of my lamp. It was staring at me. The thing had dark circles as eyes, and it was not clear like a human face, but was definitely a face. I turned off the light and ignored it and went to sleep. I eventually spoke to a lady at work, a Jehovah's Witness, about everything that had happened, and she told me that I had something in my house that was causing the problems. I did not fully believe it was the dolls at the time, but I ended up throwing them out in the industrial bin that weekend because something needed to happen to make it stop. The dolls were worth hundreds of dollars, but I was not risking it. That night, I had an extreme nightmare about them. The dolls were at my nan's house, where they had been originally, and they had killed my cat. In the dream, I found his body in the kitchen sink. Thankfully, my cat is still alive now, but I always check on him to make sure he is safe. It has been over 9 months now, and since getting rid of the dolls, I have had no nightmares, no weird noises or feelings of another presence. I feel stronger and healthier, and I always pray from time to time, asking the Lord to protect me and Hugo, my cat. Everything stopped after I threw out those dolls. I now know not to ignore things and to become more in touch with my spiritual side, and I will never buy my daughter a porcelain doll.
Thank you for watching this video. Shudder Island and Shrouded Hand have done another collaboration video about scary experiences in taxis. If you would like to watch this video, click the link appearing on screen now. Don't have nightmares.